Welcome to DJ E360 Word, the Bandit.
Whoa, what's up, man? Dietrich the Bandit. How you do?
How was the traffic?
Traffic was good.
Yeah.
I mean, it was smooth, real smooth.
Weather?
Weather was a little bit of rain here and there.
Oh, yeah, it's raining a little bit. The time of the year though, the weather's always gonna be like
I'm
messed up.
surprised that it's actually this warm.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like other than the rain today, like it was cool.
Really,
You know what I'm
okay.
saying? Yeah.
So this is your first time here,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Let's start from the beginning.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Where were you born and raised?
Shoot, I have a crazy story, man. I was born in San Diego, California.
Okay.
My dad played for the Chargers, the Jets, and the Cardinals.
Okay.
So we moved when I was 1. We moved to Arizona. I spent my first 7 years in Arizona. My entire family's from D.C. and North Carolina. So we moved. My parents broke up when I was like 6, going on 7. They had 3 children together.
Yeah.
They broke up. We came to D.C. We lived in D.C. and then we moved to Silver Spring. So I basically grew up in Silver Spring for the most part, and then until I went to Baltimore and then Atlanta.
Oh, okay. So how is that experience changed you though for both of your parents not being together?
For me, it was heartbreaking. You know what I'm saying? It was heart wrenching for me. My dad was like my hero. He was like that. He was like Superman to me. And when they split up, whatever happened between them and his upbringing, like he wasn't around anymore.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? Like he took it really, really hard. It was like I think it was like the last straw, getting kicked out the NFL. His upbringing was really rough. Things just kept happening to him, and he had to heal himself. So he pretty much went absent. I mean, nobody knew where he was.
Oh, okay.
Like, grandparents didn't know, his sister. So I have relationships with few people on his side, but it was hard because we was going through a lot of things. Yeah. And you know what I'm saying, it was just like the environment was changed because he was in the NFL, so we had a certain house in a certain neighborhood.
Yeah.
Then we come to DC and we're like, it's the hood, you know what I'm saying? It's like I'm not used to that shit, so I got really angry, and a lot of stuff started happening because of that shit, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I mean, you're right though, because most people tend to do the opposite, right? You'll be in the hood, and then
and then you go up,
better,
and then you go up, yeah, exactly.
And if you have to go back, it'll mess up your whole state of mind.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, what happened to him in the NFL? Like, did he get injured or?
Nah, he didn't get injured. He kind of got blackballed. Like I'm not sure of the whole story. Because, me and him don't really have a relationship. Like, we've been trying to build a relationship since, like, as I got older, we started trying to build a relationship. But when you are so used to somebody not being there, and you're going through so much already, like, I became a father when I was 19. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I'm 30 now. So it's like, when you're going through so much shit, and then somebody comes back into your life, it's kind of like you don't really know how to have a relationship with them. Like, I never was really mad at my father. I just didn't understand what was going on. And it was like, I missed him and I needed him. I mean, my mother moved me back to live with him in Arizona in 9th grade. And I stayed with him for like 6 months. And then after that, it was like nothing. But before that, it was like a handful of times I had seen him. And a handful of times I talked to him. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was an outlaw. Like, he just completely disappeared and shit. So it was tough. And then it's like, once you go that long without living with somebody, without speaking to them every day, without, like, I did everything by myself. You know what I'm saying? It was like me, my mother, my brother, and my sister, and it's like it was us. And when you try to come back into somebody's life, it's kind of like, even now, it's like I still don't know how to call him all the time or how to, like, go see him because I'm not used to him. You know what I'm saying? I don't really know him that well. You know what I'm saying?
It makes sense though, because like, I've seen it so many times where in the report what they're saying, they usually say it doesn't matter if you're the father or the mother of the child, right?
Yeah.
It's the person
who's there,
who's taking care of the child.
Exactly.
That creates the bond.
Exactly.
Because we love people who feed us, right?
Exactly.
The minute you're feeding somebody,
exactly,
the person develop a bond too.
Exactly.
That's what happens most of the time.
Exactly.
So if you're not there, then it's hard to create that bond. It doesn't mean you hate the person.
But it's hard. It's hard. Like, cause it's like my coaches, my basketball coaches, my football coaches, like those were my father figures. You know what I'm saying? Like, like niggas on the street, those were my father figures. Like, those are the people that I got, you know what I'm saying, I got myself from. And then my mother, you know what I'm saying, and my grandmother. Like, my grandmother did a lot of raising us, you know what I'm saying, put a lot of the values in. They're from North Carolina, and they don't play, you know what I'm saying, Like they don't play, you know what I mean? Like good people, but they will fight you. They will, you know what I'm saying? They will get with you, and like I got that. I got all of that in me. You know what I'm saying? That street shit, that they're playing ball. I'm well rounded, and I grew up in a neighborhood was full of minorities. You know what I'm saying? And Silver Spring was full of minorities, so I like know how to speak a little bit of Spanish. You know what I'm saying? Like it was Ethiopian, Spanish, Jamaicans, Trinidadians, Korean, all kinds. It was like a melting pot of just like people who are struggling, but they're all minorities. You know what I'm saying? So it was a lot of shit that I seen early on coming up, and it just made me who I am. You know what I'm saying? Like really.
So as far as growing up with your dad being into sport, how did that affect you?
I mean, sports came natural. Everybody plays sports. You know what I'm saying? My family just come from athletes. Like even my dad's sister, she has five or six kids. They all athletes. You know what I'm saying? Me and my mother. My brother play overseas now. He was, he went to UMBC. He did all that shit at UMBC when UMBC beat Virginia. That was my brother. You know what I'm saying? Like my sister went to school went to Ohio State. I mean the Green and the Bobcats. I can't remember if it was University of Ohio or Ohio State. It's not Ohio State, but it's one of them joints in Ohio, one of those big schools in Ohio. She played full ride all 4 years. You know what I'm saying? Like we do this, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was a knucklehead, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was angry as fuck, and I was in a neighborhood that had a lot of, like, I didn't like going home, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't a dude who liked playing video games. Like, I like playing ball and being out in the streets, you know what I'm saying? And, your friends start getting involved with certain things, you start getting involved with them, and then you just start getting older and older, and then it turns into, you know what I'm saying, stealing shit for this, and now we're stealing cars and like seriously, and then all kinds of shit, murders. I mean, you just being around all of that shit. You know what I'm saying? And you get really involved with it, and it just becomes you. You know what I'm saying? Like you adapt, cause like I didn't like my neighborhood because it was terrifying for me at first. It was like, man, it's just all these cops, it's all this violence, it's all these drugs. And it was nonsense to me. And then it was like, well, I had to figure out a way, because this is my environment, so I had to figure out a way to and I like going outside. I had to figure out a way to you know what I'm saying, overcome that. You know what I mean? And then the best way was just to be it. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I was angry and I didn't want to be like my dad. Cause like I wasn't mad at him, but I was like, I don't want to be like him. You know what I'm saying? If the sports was what fucked him up, I know I'm gonna play sports, but I don't want to go to the NBA and the NFL. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to rap since I was in 4th grade. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't start doing it for real till I was older. Started trying when I was 19. You know what I mean? But I always felt like I had something to say. You know what I'm saying? That was the first toy I wanted, was a microphone. I wanted to be a pastor first. You know what I'm saying? Like I wanted to speak to people. So I started seeing hip hop. I think it was Bow Wow. I was like, Bow Wow, right? He's a little boy rapper. I'm not going to school. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to go to school. I'm gonna be a rapper. Then it was Ludacris, and then it was Snoop Dogg, and then Tupac. You know what I'm saying? Like these were Eminem and 50. Like those were big influences in and then 3 6 Mafia and Bone Thugs, yo. Like those were big influences for me. You know what I mean? So I always wanted to be a rapper, but it was like everybody saying no. You need to play ball. You really, because I was really fucking good. I'm still good at it. You know what I'm saying? I jump on cars like I do. Like I'm an athlete, but my heart wasn't speaking to people. And it was like, I don't believe in the church shit no more, because my dad tried to put that church shit in me, but he's not here. So it was like, okay, well, there's a lie there somewhere. You know what I'm saying? And people can't answer my questions. Like I've always been somebody who talks and asks questions. So if you can't tell me something, you can't articulate what the Bible is saying, and I'm not going to keep listening to you. I'm going to go find out how to life for myself. You know what I mean? So, I mean, sports was inevitable because I was an athlete, and it was clear. Run faster than most and jump higher than most. So it was like, I'd be a fool not to play ball. You know what I'm saying? But
as far as the writing though, like, have you developed that through, like, were you into poetry?
Yeah, I always wrote poems. I always wrote poems. I used to write people's poems. I didn't do my schoolwork a lot, but I'll write people's poems and shit. You know what I'm saying? I love writing. I love English. This white boy, I went to Gonzaga. One of my white friends named Jay Mulieri, man, shout out Jay, young. He taught me how to write. I mean, he taught me like grammar and shit, because I was like, bro, I can't get a B or A. Like I always get C's. But the teacher was like, yo, you really can write. But it's always my grammar. And I didn't understand that shit, you know what I'm saying? I didn't understand it. He taught me how to write, you know what I'm saying? And I always liked writing, always really liked writing. Like, so, like, I don't play about my pen, you know what I'm saying? I don't play about, like, lyrics and mumble rap bullshit. I don't play about that. Like my lyrics come from my soul, and because I always wrote poems. Like I always like to read and shit. You know what I'm saying? I always like to read, so I can talk about so many different
Yeah.
things. You know what I mean?
So any high school you went to, any musical classes
I
you
took
took
one
with that?
music class, and I remember I was just talking about it the other day. I did a project on Tupac. You know what I'm saying? Like it was classical music. It wasn't like really like a class where you like make music. It was
Oh,
one
okay,
of
it
those
was like
classes where you just
history.
learn. You know what I'm saying? It was
Yeah.
one of those classes like extra. I don't really remember much about school. You know? I didn't learn much in school, and my head wasn't there. My head
Yeah.
was always how I'm gonna be this rapper, how I'm gonna be this famous rapper.
Yeah.
Like I was always scheming. You know what I'm saying? Like how I'm gonna be rich, how I'm gonna be an entrepreneur. I refused to like. I always knew I wasn't gonna get a regular 9 to 5, like a
Yeah.
corporate job. It wasn't for me. I knew it, and you know what I'm saying? I just wanted to be a rapper. You know what I'm saying? Like
Okay,
really.
as far as the education though, as far as the education of you trying to be a rapper, how is that for you? Or how what has that been for you?
What do you
Like,
mean?
have you studied like
The game?
guys,
Oh yeah,
the
yeah, yeah. Like,
game?
see, when I was in Atlanta, I put myself through school. That's why I
Oh,
call
okay.
it. Like, it was school. Like, I didn't go to school, but I used to print out Jay-Z, Eminem's lyrics.
Yeah.
I would listen to Eminem freestyle on YouTube and shit, and I would write his freestyles out as he's doing it. Like, push pause, write, pause,
Wow.
write, play, pause, like the whole joint. And then I started like I started studying Young Thug, like their song structure, Future, like
Yeah.
Kendrick, J. Cole, like I studied these niggas. You know what I'm saying? Like straight up study. I studied cadence. I studied like just words in itself, like how the etymology of words, how
Hmm.
they affect people. You know what I'm saying? Like I took that shit seriously. Like I took everything seriously because I didn't grow up doing this,
Yeah.
but I wanted to be great at it. You know what I'm saying? Like one of the greatest. So I studied the greats. I studied their business models. I studied their mindsets. I studied, literally printed out lyrics, and I was
Okay.
like, okay, this what he's doing. That's what he's doing. Then I lit I would rap over, like I would write a rap, right, and I would rap it over different beats.
It's,
You know what I'm saying? So to get the versatility, then I studied cadences, I studied rhyme schemes, I studied like literature, you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like poetry, you know what I'm saying? And this type of poem and that type of poem and all these different things. I studied everything because
Okay.
I had to take it
So
seriously.
as far as the music itself though, so when did you know like when did you decide to at least like focus on the music, like pick up the mic and be like an MC or a rapper per se?
Um, 2012, I was like, I gotta stop this street shit. I had my second child, and I kept going to jail. Like I was just getting into a lot of shit, and I was unhappy. You know what I'm saying? I was
Yeah.
really unhappy, and cause you know when you get involved with something and you get really involved and you like yo I didn't know how I was gonna get out of that shit. Like it was a mindset, but I didn't know how. So I started learning. Like I started looking up leadership shit, like how to be a ruler and leader, and it was all talk about mastering your mind
Yeah.
and shit like that, mastering yourself. And I just started implementing, you know what I'm saying, little things. But I literally was like, I never thought I was gonna get out of that shit, out of the mindset
Okay.
of it. You know what I'm saying? Like selling drugs or you know what I'm saying was my way out. You know what I'm saying? I always wanted to be a rapper, but then it's like okay, I have babies before I have money,
Yeah.
or before I have a set plan. You know what I'm saying to execute. So I'm frustrated. I'm like, yo, how the fuck am I ever make my dreams happen? Now I have
Yeah.
children, but that's like, nah, fuck that. I saw this one joint. It was like the hand that you losing with somebody can win with. I stopped bitching. You know what I'm saying? I stopped bitching about it. I was like, I gotta write. I used to be like, man, no disrespect to you, Chief Keef and shit, but I used to like, man, how this nigga Chief Keef rap? Like he ain't saying nothing for
No.
real. You know what I'm saying? But like he's famous, and then
Yeah.
I started understanding how disrespectful I was, because I'm like, but if somebody come up to you right now, you don't have no songs, you don't freestyle, so it's not like you can just, you know what I'm saying, impress somebody
Yes.
with your freestyle. But you always talking about everything you don't have. But what you do have is a pen, a piece of paper, and you have YouTube. So you better start writing.
Yeah.
So I started writing every day from 2012 until like 2018. You know
Okay.
what I'm saying? Like every single day I wrote something. Like at first it was just freestyles and shit. Just cause I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to freestyle when I, you know what I'm saying, do an
Yeah.
interview. And then I just started, and then it became songs, and then, you know what I'm saying, then it became like choruses, and then it became like one or two a day, you know what I'm saying, just making sure that I have material,
Yeah.
material.